Welcome to Being at Home with George during COVID. Really excited to be here today and to talk about this idea of creating the possibility of embracing everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, and at the same time, generating hope. And so, what I'd like to talk about tonight is very interesting because we all have the capacity to find our own voice. And when I talk about finding our own voice, what am I talking about? I'm talking about having our own thoughts and feelings, especially when it's inconvenient or not popular. I'm also talking about doing it in a way that's wholesome, that's generating more hope and more positive. And so to me, finding our own voice has to do with letting our own heart speak for itself. And it reminds me of the line from Hamlet, to thine own self be true. And also in the Bible, it talks about know the truth and the truth shall make you free. And so an example of this goes back to when I was working in corporate and I was working as a financial analyst for a high-tech firm and I was putting in 60 hours a week and it really wasn't enough. They wanted more. And I remember because I didn't want to leave and I didn't want to stay. It was kind of that in between thing. And I remember I was very good at what I did, but my heart wasn't in it. And I would forget meetings. I'd put it on the calendar, but I just forget to recognize and then get to the meeting on time. There was a part of me that just wasn't into it. And I remember at that time, I had a teacher, Larry Rosenberg, and I remember I used to have a meeting with him one-on-one once a week. And this particular day, I went in to meet him, and he said to me, "What's going on?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You seem happy today." I said, "Well, I took a mental health day off from work." And he said, "You should make a habit of that." At the same time, I was watching The Power of Myth with Joseph Campbell, and he was talking about follow your bliss and the hero's journey, and your life is where your pain is, all of these different things. And so it was a period of time. I remember one particular weekend where it was very challenging because it felt like I was in this extreme anxiety, the uncertainty factor of leaving my job before I had another job. I was with it all weekend, and then it became clear to me that I had to follow my bliss. I had to let go to grow. And so I did that. And it was interesting because as I was going through and saying goodbye to all my friends today, I had a lot of friends at that place that I worked. And I would share with them that I was leaving because I went to my boss and I said, I need to leave. So let's, you can lay me off or whatever. And, I'm out because they wanted me to do things that I wasn't comfortable with. So it was more uncomfortable staying than leaving. And so when I went around and would go around and talk to people, they would say, "Oh, I wish I could do that." And I felt like I was happy that I was able to do it, but I felt sad because part of me was saying, you can do that. But it could be inconvenient, it could be unpopular. But yet, if you really wanted to do it, to me, my butt was on fire. So that's how I left. There wasn't a sense of urgency. So maybe they didn't. But it was just this idea of just being true to myself, even though I was denying it because I was making good money and I was really good at it, but my heart wasn't in it. And so once I left, and I would say this to people, I realized that at the time, I didn't know if I was doing the right thing, but I knew I couldn't stay. So I found my own voice by listening to myself. And you have to think about the way I grew up. I was always sensitive. I could feel people's feelings and stuff. And I was always told to don't be sensitive, man up, or don't be a wuss, whatever the language was, depending on who I was talking about. And so I cut off parts of myself. I didn't trust my own thoughts and feelings. And it wasn't until I got to this crossroad where Joseph Campbell was talking about follow your bliss, and between my teachers and other people and me just really being honest with how I really felt and what were my thoughts, what were my feelings. And going through that process, I don't know exactly how long it took, but when I found myself, what happened was I was being true to myself, to thine own self be true. And then knowing the truth shall make you free. And so I was free to be whoever I wanted to be. And then I ended up doing what I'm doing now. I mean, it just kind of dovetailed. So it's interesting because during this time of COVID, especially with everything shut down over a year ago, I made the decision that was heartfelt that why don't I create something like this, being at home with George, so that I can help people negotiate their way through these difficult times. And now that we're coming into the light, now that there's light at the end of the tunnel, that I made, and I'm expressing my own voice by saying, okay, this is what I feel, this is what I think, and I'm going to commit to that. I'm going to commit to doing what my heart tells me I should do. So I let my heart speak to me, and I feel like, yes, this is the right thing to do, even though I really didn't know what I was doing or how to do this. But the will was there. The will was saying, okay, this is your voice. And so what I'm hopeful for is by sharing this with people, being able to find my voice, other people willing to find their voice. And when I work with people, that's pretty much what I ask people. I talk about, well, what do you want? And then who do you need to be to do what you want? And what are the barriers? What's stopping us from being ourselves? Because maybe the people around us get uncomfortable. And I'm not talking about doing this in a destructive way. I'm talking about being real with how we feel, having our own thoughts, not letting other people tell us how to think, or having our own feelings, and just feeling what we need to feel. And so the challenge I want to put out there is, are you expressing your own voice? And if not, why not?